going back to the whole design space, and, you know, we have buyers go in and they walk in and they go, I love this space. I love this room. It's big, it's small. It could be quirky, it could be standard, anything. It's going, okay, well, what do I start with? What color do I paint my walls? Where do I put my couch? Where do you start the design process? Like, where do you usually start when you have a new client? Where do you usually go? Like, do you hone in on their paint colors or what furniture they have? What advice would you give to those, you know, first-time home buyers, or the, you know, ones who have done it many times before?
Go.
You want first?
Sure. I mean, I would say when a new home, I would say tell them to slow down. Like, you know, everyone gets ahead of themselves. Like, oh, what am I going to paint? Where am I going to put this? And where am I going to put this? And wants to rush to decorate it. And I actually say, I think my best advice is, and maybe this isn't the smartest advice as a designer, but it's like, don't design it maybe all at once. Like, get in there, live in the space, see how you function in the space, see what you use in the space. But if you want to kind of get started on that process, I always say start collecting images that really inspire you. So the big thing is like, how do you want to feel in here? So it's not about picking, I want blue as a paint color or green or whatever. It's like, okay, how do I want to feel? Like, for instance, when we moved, I was like looking at the surroundings and looking at where I was in my life and how do I want to feel? I want to feel really calm. I want to feel really peaceful. So I don't, it's funny, I put like some flowers that had color in it. I don't want any color. Like, it's really weird, right? And I love it for other people, and I do other homes that have color and bright and fun. But for me, it's like, I just want it really neutral, really textured, really calm and soothing. So I think a starting place would be like looking at the surroundings, working with that. How do you want to feel in that space? And then going on like Pinterest, right? And start collecting images that really speak to you. And notice the threads in those. Are those colorful and bright? Are those vibrant? Are those calm and soothing? And that's going to really help you in making those choices, because what people do is kind of sporadically, like, I saw this couch, or I'm bringing an old couch and I want to paint this color. And then it becomes, you know, and then I'll come in as a designer and there's sort of this mismatch of things and people don't know where to go. But I think if we kind of slow it down, step it back, think, how do I want this space to feel? Create a Pinterest board. I did this for myself, like, and I go back to it all the time because I get so caught up in like other things. I think, oh, that's so cool, I want to do that. And then I go, no, what's my actual vision of like how I want to feel in the space? And that helps inform your choices. So I'd say to the buyer, like, don't have to make all those decisions right away. Probably the first thing I would do is paint. I do recommend that. You know, I usually like a white. You can never go wrong. Simply white, Benjamin Moore, you'll be fine.
You can always go with a good base and then go on from there. Exactly.
Just paint simply white and you'll be happy. It's fine.
Well, Joanne, we just had this conversation about how do they make you feel? So I think that's really fun.
We had a long conversation about that. Yeah. The emotional piece is actually a very big thing. I'm just going to go back to what Karla said first about the Pinterest thing. That's really important. When I start with a client first, I always get them to start kind of like a mood board or a Pinterest board. But I tell them, don't send me anything until at least 1 week later. Just start collecting. Because the problem is I'll get so many messages about, oh, what about this? What about this? What about this? And they're great designs. They're all great designs. But I think the problem is it looks great in someone else's living room. Mm-hmm. And then you want to adopt that into your space, but you also want different pieces of everything. So then when you start buying right away, it becomes incredibly eclectic, which isn't a bad thing sometimes, but it doesn't go together. Mm-hmm. So spend that week to really sift through the photos that you really like and then find a common thread.
Yeah.
And you'll actually start to see in your Pinterest board some of the colors that are popping up that are the same, some of the themes that are the same, some of the furniture that you're looking at has, or they have like very specific design elements that you like, versus like wood versus like stone or whatever that may be. And and this is where maybe a designer can walk you through. These are some of the common things that I'm seeing in your board. So let's talk about that more. How does that evoke certain emotions? And so I feel like for the rooms, those are very, very important. For kids' rooms, especially when I work with a lot of soon-to-be moms who don't really know what their nursery is going to look like. Most of them are now leaning towards the gender neutral, which is great. So I think that there's a lot of the theme though that's going on is a lot of the boho nurseries are popping up. A lot of the minimal nurseries are popping up. So it's almost putting your own style in the nursery before you know what your child really likes. And that's okay, because you know you don't really have a benchmark just yet, right? But those things still, I think for the nursery, the biggest thing is definitely color that can be changed. So if you're planning a nursery or a kid's room, I always get them to look at the furniture first. The accessories can always change, but the very thing that is going to pull the room together, especially for a kid's room, are actually the large furnitures. So if you pick a bed and there's certain element about that bed, whether it's a minimalistic design or there's a boho design to it, then you can tie the room together that way. You can add a carpet, change the lamp, or the light fixture, which is the most important thing to really tie the room together. And so just those few pieces will really change a room big time.
Oh yeah. Oh, that's good advice. I'm learning a few things.
It's kind of interesting because like my place, like I haven't had a designer, and actually I was excited to hear what you guys have to say, because I think for my place that's sort of one of the next steps where I want to go. So like even knowing what you like I really like mid-century modern furniture, and I've inherited a couple really cool pieces from my grandparents, and then I've added a couple others on my own. But so I look at things, I'm like, oh, I like that, but I can't for some reason put it all together for the life of me, right? So I'm sure that you guys, I mean, with some of your clients, like I'm not alone, right? Like you must experience people like that, but they have no idea how to tie it all together to make sense of it. Because my place is like, oh, well, that's cool, but why that or why there or something like that, right? Anyways, that's my interior design prediction.
But it's great because a lot of stuff that you're collecting and that you're drawn to, that's essentially you. Those are the things that you love. And so it really is just about tying those certain elements together. And I'm sure Karla sees a lot of that too, where I think the trouble is people, when they see something, they want it right away. So they'll purchase certain things because it looks good in this room, and then they'll see something else and it looks good in that room. But then when you put it together, you have 5 different rooms in your space.
Well, yeah, that's the issue. And also the reason I have trouble, even from how much design I still do, I still have a lot of trouble, might I add, is that...
Well, I had to call you, right? Remember? So.
We always need voices of reason, right? So I tend to love spaces that are like, I don't know, the ceilings are 20 feet higher than what I actually have, and the rooms are like 500 square feet more than what I have. So I also find like scale of rooms, and when we're looking at all these Instagram accounts and we're going, oh, I wish I had that, and it has the beams and it has that vaulted ceiling and the fireplace that goes up to the very top. Also, there's a lot of elements in some of the rooms of the design that we have that work because of these big features of the home. So sometimes we forget about like scaling it down a little bit more to like a lot of people live in apartments. That's common, right? So there's a lot of design elements we have to think about with the space we actually live in as well, that we can't get too heavy.
Right. But you can still add that style like to it. Like I always go back to that Studio McGee.
Yeah.
Reminds me of like something you would like. And so those are those big houses in Utah or whatever, right? Like we don't have those maybe in Vancouver, but you can bring that style, those elements in there, right? There's kind of a traditional transitional kind of style, lots of like colors, like, some golds, glam, like you could bring those things in there, but yeah, you have to be aware of your space, but yeah,
awareness.